everybody. Hello. Last main session, anyway, of the day. Who here was in my earlier session? Okay. Now keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. You're in the earlier one. Out of the people who were in my earlier one, because I like to reward repeat buyers, who here knows what a YubiKey is?
I do.
You do?
Who
would like one?
Huh? I wasn't in your earlier session, but I know what it is.
So,
I don't know.
Keep your hand up if you were in my earlier session and you know what a YubiKey is and you want one.
I already got one.
You already got one. You already got one. Now we'll give you a free YubiKey.
Cool.
And actually, for the rest of you, after the session, if you want a YubiKey, just ask us. Pretty much all the geeks are equipped with YubiKeys. We are real big proponents of security, so.
So,
What are they? Are you going to tell us what they are?
I'll give you the 2-second spiel. In Joomla 3.2, they added a new thing called two-factor authentication, where to log into the website, you need not only a user ID and a password, but you can turn on optionally user ID, password, and a two-factor authentication. You can use Google two-factor authentication, which means you can have a code sent to your phone or whatever, or you can use what I'm wearing literally around my neck all the time, a physical device, a YubiKey. So you cannot get into my admin of my website, even if you know my username and password. No, I'm not going to tell you. But even if you did, you can't get in without this key. This is the key that I wear around my neck all the time. Yes, they're very cool. So I like that even better than the Google, personally. Anyway, all right, but we are here to talk about e-commerce projects. So who here has done an e-commerce project at some point? Okay, good. So like 2/3 of the room. Who here loves e-commerce projects and wants to do them all the time? Okay, no one. which is why when we went to Joomla Day Chicago a couple years ago, we told people, well, we pretty much specialize in Joomla e-commerce sites. That's mostly what we do. They were like, you people are kind of masochistic, aren't you? Like nobody wants to do that. It is a dangerous journey. I think you have some little sheets. We didn't bring any cards. We printed them out at the hotel, so they're a little green. I had a designer draw this little map for me to kind of illustrate for me, we're going to walk through this today, how dangerous it is to do an e-commerce project. The worst thing about e-commerce projects is you do not know what you do not know. If you have not done one before, you have no idea what you're getting into. And even if you have done one before, if you've only done a simple one, you may still not know. The next time the customer calls you up and you're like, yeah, I did an e-commerce project before, I'm set. Those of you who did do e-commerce before, how many of you had to deal with like credit card inline processing and PCI and stuff? Okay? Sure you? Okay, a lot less than the people who raised their hand and said they'd done one. So there's still a lot more that could be involved. All right, so this is our little journey that we're going to take today. Let's start first with Alice in Wonderland. She's talking to the Cheshire Cat. And she says, well, will you please tell me which way I need to go from here? And the cat says, well, that depends a great deal on where you want to go. I don't much care where I go. Cat says, well, that doesn't much matter, does it? And Alice says, well, but as long as I get somewhere. As long as I get my site up. As long as it's up in time for Christmas. To kind of paraphrase something you might hear. Oh, you're sure to do that if you work or walk long enough. I kind of feel like this is sometimes how e-commerce projects go. You will eventually get the site live. But if you don't know where you're going, you don't know the direction, you don't understand the map, then you are going to get into far more dangerous territory than you realize. And it's going to take you a lot longer to get there than if you had at least a little bit of direction. So my goal for today is to give you a little bit of direction, to mostly just kind of illuminate you into some of the things you just don't know, or maybe you know only a little bit about, just to give you the idea enough to go back and know to Google it. Half of it is just knowing that you should Google it. Right? Okay, so one of the first things that comes up when someone calls you up and says, hey, do you do e-commerce sites? And you say, yes, absolutely. You need to know what kind of e-commerce we're talking about. Because there's not just one kind. This is the one we all usually think of. Business selling to consumers. I'm selling widgets to the public. I'm a business, that's what I sell, that's what we all think of. That's what, a lot of times, that's exactly what they're asking you to do. But there's also business-to-business e-commerce. Different audience, different requirements, different things that they will want, different ways they'll expect the site to behave. Give you one example. Business-to-business usually will have at some level wholesale that comes into play. So when people are wholesalers and they're buying, I don't know, UBKs, and they know that they want to get 500 white UBKs, and they know they want to get 100 of the black, and then they want to get some of the UBK nanos, etc., etc. They don't want to have to go in and go to each of those parts of the site separately and add the things and go to their cart. They're a wholesaler. They want to come in and go to one page and go 500 of these, 200 of these, out. And they might very well have things that they need, like being able to just charge it to their account. Maybe if they're shipping something large, they want to be able to have calculated shipping and far beyond what you're going to do with FedEx. So again, from the very beginning, ask them, what are we talking about? First sentence out of your mouth when you say, e-commerce site is, what are you selling and who are you selling it to? Okay? There's also consumer to business e-commerce. Let's see, what's a example of that would be something like, I'm going to say 99 Designs, because it's a good example of it, where you come in there, and a lot of us who are businesses, we may choose to go in there and do something. I got my the little diagram off in 995. But you go in there and you put something up, and people choose to come bid on it, that they're bidding the business. Different scenario, different kinds of needs. Then you have consumer to consumer. This is like eBay. I'm a consumer and I should be able to come into the site and list an item for sale, and then I should be able to sell it, and I want all the protection that the site will offer, and I want a lot of the features the site will offer, and I want you to be able to make it convenient for me to sell, but it's really a bunch of stuff you don't control. Right? So you have a lot of things that you have to worry about on this site that you don't have to worry about with maybe some of the things that are like a business to consumer site, with a guy just selling widgets. So every e-commerce project starts off like this. Yes, we can do it, no problem. Butterflies and flowers abound, and everybody's happy, and you're all good, and they sign the contract. And then, the first thing you have to deal with, by the way, what are we going to take for payment? Right? What are we going to take for payment? And if you're lucky, they say PayPal. And if you're lucky and they say PayPal, half your battle's over right there, I promise you. But there really are a lot of things that you ought to know about, and if you've done, there was a scattering of people here that said they had done e-commerce. And then when I asked how many of them had dealt with credit cards, more of the hands were down. So that tells me that most likely, those remaining people probably dealt with a third-party processor. So, to navigate payment peaking at the rent safely, you want to see, first off, your safest bet as a developer or a designer or whatever it is that you're doing, your safest bet is always the third-party payment processor. And the reason why is because all the risk is on them. Right? When you're doing PayPal payments and the person is actually physically leaving the site and going over to PayPal and filling it out there, all the security is on PayPal, all the private information is on PayPal. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to deal with that. It's safer. So is Avangate. Okay? There's also hosted gateways. So like we have in our site where you check out and you buy something, if you do credit card, we don't store that on our stuff. We have a hosted gateway that has a vault, so to speak, for credit cards, and they store the credit card information. So when I need to rebill that customer for hosting or something, all my system does is says, by the way, there's a bill for $25 for customer number 123, and they know what that card is, and I've never seen that card. All the risk again is on them. So that's very helpful. But a lot of times, you do end up needing to do maybe something a little more. So some of the options are to do something that's a combination of a merchant account and a gateway. So in that case, maybe the person's allowed to accept credit cards directly, but they have to use a different gateway. So like PayPal Pro will let you do this. Okay? And so will authorize.net. So they're very well known. There's almost always a plugin to allow you to use something like authorize.net. Now, some other things that come up though when you're doing payment stuff is multi-currency gets you. At this point, we've been asked several times about Bitcoin, using Bitcoin, right? And the question becomes, okay, Bitcoin values go like this.
Yeah.
So, are you going to treat Bitcoin like a price? Like, is it going to be on your website as it's $100 or it's whatever the heck you can calculate for me, Michael, 0.2 Bitcoins or whatever? Or do you, close right today? Or do you want to treat it as you will put all the prices in Bitcoin, and then maybe you'll do a currency converter thing that updates every night, or maybe with Bitcoin that's not often enough. Or do you just want it to be a Bitcoin currency, or do you want to use the BitPay and have it go? I mean, it gets really complicated, and that's probably one of the more complicated kind of multi-currency situations. But even so, if you're accepting payments in multiple currencies, some merchants are allowed to accept multiple currencies, and some everything's going to be like US dollars and then everything's converted over. Again, if you do PayPal, that's all taken care of for you. They handle that, so much easier. Probably the big thing is, if you've done e-commerce, it feels like probably something you shouldn't have to be told, but it happens. Never, never, never email or store that credit card data. Anywhere. Ever. Okay? Unless you're like, Sears or something, and you have a major enterprise to be able to do that and kind of security. But even so, Target, okay? So it's never a good idea to have that stuff. Never a good idea to keep it. If people go after that information, it makes you a target. So like I said, we never store it ourselves. We have the ability to bill again, but it's not because we have their card data. Because, yes?
How do you get that credit card information to people that needs it?
There is, we have a thing on our website that when you check out, you go over to them and you enter it. It's an integration. Go over to them, they enter it, and then all that's kept anymore after that is just customer number.
You don't even need to see the credit card.
Nope, I never see it.
It never touches. It never touches our server. Never touches our site.
Right.
It never gets anywhere near us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why a lot of the risk is off of us.
Yep.
So it's a gateway to like First Data or something?
Yeah, ours is a gateway. It's actually Quantum gateway that we integrated with, and then it's CDG Commerce on the end for our credit cards. But it could be any credit card processor that you have an account with.
If you want details about that, just see us and
Oh yeah, yeah. If you want, like, I didn't put in here, the big diagram. We talked for 30 minutes about all the pieces that you need to do credit card processing. If you've never gotten into that before, you might be amazed. You need a merchant account and you need a gateway, again, this and that. So we can certainly talk about that afterwards. Just hit me up and I'll be happy to share with you. But the big thing that happens is the minute you're taking credit card data, the minute you're accepting it in any way, shape, or form and transmitting it, you are responsible for being compatible with PCI, the Payment Card Industry Standards. Okay? Now, when I say you, I really mean the merchant who has the store of the website you are building. Okay? Which, that's the client's responsibility. You are not building a PCI compliant website, because if you put that in writing, you're in trouble. Okay? Don't put that in writing. But the PCI compliance is really their job. Like, there's a questionnaire they have to fill out, and they have to fill in, and they may hand part of that to you and say, can you help me? I don't know what the heck they're asking me, some technical stuff. I have no idea what they want. And then you have to help them with that. But ultimately, they're the ones who have the agreement with Visa and MasterCard and their merchant bank that they promise they're doing things in a secure manner. That's not you as the person developing the website. But you still need to know those rules so that you don't do anything that's going to violate it. Okay? But I think it's very important you cover yourself in your statement of work. It's like we do HIPAA compliant stuff sometimes. I tell people, we know what HIPAA is. We're capable of working within a HIPAA compliant environment. We understand what stupid thing not to do. We're not going to sign something saying that we promise you're HIPAA compliant. We have companies we send you to if you need that. SSL, putting just HTTPS in front of a website, that is not it. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the full PCI compliance. It's a big honking questionnaire, lots of information, lots of rules about passwords and how often they change and who can get to them, and it goes on and on. You just need to know. So you ought to go over to Google PCI compliance, do some reading so that you understand what the pitfalls are. And then make sure in your contract it says that you will, build a website in a manner that is, what's the phrase you would want to say? You want to say
Consistent with?
PCI compliance is ultimately the client's responsibility, and that you will build the site at their direction. Okay, you want to kind of get yourself out of that. But it's certainly, all the best security practices don't do something that's going to get you in trouble. Promote two-factor authentication. I talked about the YubiKeys. That's great right there, right? That is only from Joomla 3.2 up, although I think you can get, from the Akiba guy, I think you can get a plugin to use it on 2.5.
What are those keys?
YubiKey.
Will they start with car or
I'll tell you about it afterwards, but it is a security feature so that you have to have a double way in, so to speak. So you have your user ID, your password, and then you have to have a extra piece of information, which in this case is a physical key. And then make sure there's secure hosting. If someone is selling stuff on their website, even if they're selling with PayPal, you're collecting their name and their address and blah, 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 stuff they consider private. You should still be on SSL. And if you do custom code, you have to test it. I get asked a lot, why are payment plugins so expensive to build? You've got any idea what kind of testing has to go into that? What kind of responsibility there is about something that's handling credit card information? It's huge. So if you do any custom coding where you're touching the checkout, and it is in some way a piece of inline credit card where you're collecting credit card information, that has got to be tested out with the yin yang, so to speak. Very important.
Hey, Jess,
Yes.
if you're literally just putting a PayPal button and then a look at your cart button, you're okay.
You're
It's all
fine.
happening at PayPal.
You're fine. The PayPal is taking care of all of that for you. And then the other thing I want to say is it's very important to make sure these people, you build a website and hand it off to them. If they don't upgrade it, they don't do what they're supposed to do. So if you have e-commerce clients, it's very important that you make sure that either you provide them an ongoing security service or you send them to someone who will. Do not just give them the site and say, there you go, it's great. Okay? You're doing them a major disservice if you do that. All right, so shipping. So what are some things you ought to know about and think about for shipping? Are they shipping virtual products? Or are they shipping, with quotes around it, virtual goods? Right? Completely different thing. And yet they still have delivery mechanisms you have to worry about. Like if you're doing virtual goods, you have to worry about, do they care how many times it's downloaded? I got one guy who, we did a HIPAA compliance site for him, and he has a nice dynamic PDF thing that he wanted with it and everything. And he wanted it so that when the person came through and paid, they had one opportunity to fill in his PDF, and then that was it, and then they could never get to it again. I said, that's not really going to make sense. It's really not going to make sense because it's a long form. There's a lot of information here.
It's like
It's
3
not going
pages.
to happen. It's like 3 pages. And I guarantee you they're going to look at it and go, oh, I don't have that. Let me go find that. You can't just tell them only once. But things like that come up with virtual things. This person is selling medical consulting. So they have to fill in this form and all this kind of stuff. But it comes up a lot, right? How many times can I download it? How long can I get to it? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Physical goods seem even simpler for some reason next to all that. Because you can have, there's tons of plugins to do the calculated shipping. I want to do FedEx, I want to do UPS, I want to do the US Postal Service, no problem. You're going to find a shipping plugin for that. Not going to be an issue. However, the catch sometimes is, how does your person want the shipping calculated? And sometimes they're not going to tell you exactly what they want until you get to the end, and then they go, oh, by the way, we want to charge differently by zip code. Well, yeah, but that's from FedEx. Oh, no. We have a surcharge we want added, and it's different for zip code. I'm like, what? Okay, so people do that. They also have packages. We have this one guy who, you go through and you set up a site, and you put in the weight, and you put in the size of the items and everything else, and they're all good. They are, what are they called? Foamy flyers. They're these big foam play airplanes that I guess adults play with because they cost a lot. And they don't weigh much, but they're bulky. So the price for the shipping comes from the bulk. So you get all the way to the end of his shipping, and he's like, oh, but if someone buys 2, I want to be able to package those together if they'll both fit. So I need the thing to be able to tell me whether or not this plane and this plane of this size and this size can go in the same box. See what I mean? You don't know what you don't know until you ask them, right? So when they say, oh yeah, I want to do FedEx, don't just say, okay, great. You know, you're probably okay, but the gotcha is, what are some of those things that they might not be telling you? And then there's flat shipping, which also seems ridiculously easy, right? $5 an item, no problem, excellent. Except, is it really? Is it per item? Is it per item if they buy up to 5? Is it per item as long as they're not buying an item that weighs over 15 pounds? Is it flat shipping on the whole total cart value? That comes up. And then what if, okay, so someone says to you, I only want flat shipping. So you get all the way down with the website, and you've got everything set up for flat shipping, and then say, oh, but I have customers asking now for one-day shipping. Okay, is that going to be a flat amount? Well, it depends where it's going. This is true. Okay? So, and then even free shipping. People say, yeah, I'm going to do free shipping. When? When are we going to give people free shipping? Are we only going to give them free shipping when they buy a certain amount? Are we only going to give them free shipping if they're in a certain customer group? Are we only going to do free shipping if they buy less than a certain number of items or more than a certain number of items? Even that has little gotchas, so you have to ask them. Okay, so there's lots of rules and regulations and stuff that come up too. Some more fun stuff about shipping is, anybody here ever done any e-commerce for a wine store? Yeah, fun, okay? So they have rules about where they can ship and where they can't, and yet maybe you can't ship to Maryland, I'm just making this up, maybe you can't ship to Maryland from North Carolina, but I'm in North Carolina and I want to buy wine to go to Maryland, so can I do that? No. Well, what about my relative in Maryland who wants to buy wine and have it shipped to me? Oh, well, they should be able to do that. Mm-hmm. So it's not just, so it's like building address versus shipping address and all of that. And then the other thing that's fun about wine is, some of them are like, you can't buy and have it shipped and maybe qualify for free shipping or not, depending on what they want to do, unless you buy a case. Oh, okay, so that's no problem. Minimum 12. Well, no, it's like they can mix and match. They can have 2 of these, and they have 1 of these, and they have 1 of these, and whatever that puts together into a case. So, well, what happens when they buy the 13th bottle? Well, so there's a lot of talks about that. You have to have conversations about. And then I already talked to you a little bit about the packaging calculation of the box, and the people with the shipping planes. Then there's delivery management. We had a little chat with someone at lunch about this. We've done some interesting delivery management stuff. I think we're one of the only companies that's actually done the really weird stuff. But we've done delivery management stuff where people have quotas per time slot. You can order on Tuesday as long as it's not past midnight, and as long as the day before wasn't a holiday, and as long as 3 other people haven't already bought for that time slot. Okay, so that gets really messy. So if someone says, I want to do deliveries, oh, well, what do you need to be able to do? Oh, they just need to pick a date and a time. Ask more questions. Ask more questions. What exactly do you need? Do you need a cutoff ahead of time, et cetera, et cetera? And are there areas you don't deliver? And people aren't going to just get in a car and drive from Virginia to North Carolina to deliver me something, so there's got to be a cutoff. What do you want to do there? Do you offer FedEx to those people? Are they just not allowed to buy? Period? Something's got to happen with that. What do you want to have happen? So I'll pause at this point. Has anybody got any questions about the stuff we've gone over before, the payment and that sort of stuff? Yes?
Y'all didn't mention like PayPal advance payments.
And
I
talking about the one that splits it and
it's like no. I know what you're talking about there too.
forget what that one's called, but yeah.
Just PayPal advance where like it's really an iframe built into the site.
Yeah.
And it's just like, do you have anything against that? Because at this point I've got pretty much none of my clients ever do PayPal standard because why would they if they could do PayPal advance when it's got all you have to need is SSL certificate, and that's really just to make it seem more secure, but it's an iframe at the end of the day that already has an SSL certificate with PayPal. But having a credit card where they can type it directly in the site.
Yeah. I can tell you that we personally haven't done too many of those. People usually tend to go from one jump to the other. They're usually one of those two things. But I do know that that is a good solution. And there were some problems using it, like in the early Joomla 2.5 days, that whatever iframe technology they used wasn't displaying well in most of the templates. I think they've solved all that now.
Yeah, that's
So,
probably true.
yeah, so have you been implementing it in like Joomla 3?
To be honest, I've implemented it 6 times, and every time it's been on WordPress, not on Joomla.
Okay then, well, so I will tell you that my knowledge has been that Joomla 2.5 had trouble. And I don't know whether Joomla 3 works as well.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you
Just
can't get it
curious.
there, but it's not just a plug and play kind of
Yeah,
thing.
well, that makes sense now.
Yeah, that's why I didn't
Joomla.
bring it up, but okay.
Perfect.
Because I was going to say, we didn't even talk after this session. You've
I
got
haven't used that on Joomla, PayPal
Right.
Advanced, but it's a great option for
It
if it
is.
is working.
It is a great option, but there's a lot of technical challenges trying to get that information to the iframe and then the back, and it's really tough.
it has been.
Technical challenges.
I think they've solved a lot of that now, but I have to admit, we haven't dealt with a customer in like the last 4 or 5 months who's wanted to do that. So we haven't really.
AIM integration with authorized.net, and it actually keeps it all on your site instead of switching you over, which a lot of customers really like because it's still contained within the same website.
Right.
You still have all the same secure features, and you're just integrating through an API, transaction code, and
It's a key.
login ID.
It's
Login
like a
ID.
key.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
and this-
API key
Mhm.
login.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I set that up
WordPress and
too.
Joomla can do both.
Yeah.
There's a couple plugins within both
Yeah.
frameworks.
Yeah, almost all the major carts can handle the authorized.net.
Yeah.
Not very many of them are doing the PayPal standard yet. PayPal Adaptive, that's the one I thought you were talking
Yeah, I
about.
know.
PayPal Adaptive
I know you're
is
talking about where it splits it off into separate payments.
really cool. If anybody's got to do multi-vendor stuff, where when a payment is taken, it has to be split between 2 or 3 vendors, and PayPal actually has something to do that. You take one payment from the customer, and it pays this vendor this much, and this vendor this much, and this vendor this
Like
much.
if you've got like a multi-store front where maybe you're paying a commission to,
Yes.
like let's say you're building a theme for us basically, right?
Yes.
You would be paying, maybe the person that made it, and then maybe you'd be paid yourself, so it's split in multiple ways. Yeah, it's
Right.
pretty smart.
Exactly. It's really a brilliant piece of software.
Yeah.
It really is. It's being used a lot by Hickashop for Hick Market for their multi-vendor stuff. Was there a question back here?
Well, I just wondered if you're splitting it up and somebody has a return, does that all work?
Yeah, that does get a little messy, right? When they put that PayPal claim in there, and then, yeah, because it's going to come back to the main store owner,
Right.
who then has to deal with the vendors.
Turn around, send it back to them.
Yeah.
Question.
Yes.
About the APIs to the delivery companies and shipping companies.
Yes.
Every time I've used those, the number that has come back has always been a lot lower than the company actually charges me when I go to deliver products. Are those really reliable? Am I just using them?
You've seen that before. And I'm
Yes.
trying to remember what that was.
100% vendor.
Like, yeah,
Right.
way off, right? Losing money every time you ship, right? Yeah.
Yeah, now there's a couple things here. One is when you're putting in the dimensions, you forgot to put in for packaging, to package the product inside of your box, and that adds weight, and that adds extra dimensions for your packaging. And you've also got, when you're putting in your username and your information, you got to be careful and not get the reduced. They're going to try to do the reduced rate based off of that information. So you got to do the right account to there to get the normal rate.
Yeah, like for instance, maybe you qualify, depending on your volume that you do, you might qualify for a lower rate technically. But then by the time you ship that and you put it into boxes and the different sizes, and they're assuming everything else you're going to get charged more. There's 2 ways around that. One is to, one is of course, to have a company that understands this kind of stuff come in and look at it and understand why it's failing with the wrong rate and figure it out and fix it. But the other thing you can do is you can slap an extra percentage on top of it and be done with it. That's what most people end up doing. They're just like, oh, just 10%.
That's the handling charge.
Yeah, the handling charge, right? Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's move on to Feature Festival. This is like a wide thing. I could talk for an hour and a half on just this kind of stuff. It's all the fun stuff. It's all the things like wish lists and things like that. So basically, all those feature requirements that the customers ask for, the wish list, the reordering, I have that come up a lot, just a lot of different things like that people want on the website for the customers, the end customers to be able to enjoy the site. You know, we're all spoiled, right? We're all used to Amazon and everything else. We're like, why can't I do that here? Those things all drive your product catalog information architecture. All those little things you need to have in there. They want to be able to filter by this. They want to be able to find X and Z. Here's a good example of when this comes up a lot. Car parts. Okay? Got sites that we've done for car parts. So they have, how many items are in that site?
350,000.
350,000, and that wasn't even like all the models. That was just like a certain set of what they did. And you had to have, for each part, which car model did it fit, what year did it fit, blah, blah, blah. So someone could come in and say, I have a 2005 whatchamacallit, and find the right carburetor or whatever for that. But on a simpler scale, it even happens, you know, with clothing, things like that. What people want the front end to let the shopper do is going to drive what you have to do with the catalog in the back end. And you need to kind of have that conversation up front, because otherwise you find yourself kind of toward the end and the customer will go, oh, by the way, I really want a filter on the site that allows them to do this, and you go, oh, I put that in the description text, but it's not a searchable field by itself, and now we have to do X, Y, Z. So having that conversation up front is important. Things like product compare, everything you want to do a compare by, like you're on cameras and things like that, we might really want to have a nice comparison feature. You need to make sure those are all individual fields, and that they're standardized and normalized, and that the data's in a way that can be compared against another. You ever gone to a website where they have a product compare and you pull it up and it's useless? Like, okay, you have this information in column A for this camera and nothing over here for that. What does that mean? It doesn't even say does not have feature, it's just nothing there. So product compares are a big gotcha. People have wish lists. They want people to be able to save to a wish list and keep it, and then email the people who didn't buy. I have some sites that I do business with that if I go to their cart, I shop around, I put things in my cart, 3 days later they go, by the way, did you forget your cart? Here it is. And they have pictures of the items I have in my cart, which is much better than just saying, by the way, did you forget your shopping cart? Yeah, I'm busy. But, oh yeah, you're right, I wanted this sweater, right? So wish list with email follow-up is another big feature that has a lot of work. And then I talked about multi-channel sales a little bit. Well, I talked about multi-vendor, but multi-channel is kind of like the other side of it. Do they want to sell on the website, and they want to maybe sell in a couple other places? So do they want to sell on the website and eBay? All right, that's one of our big things. We do eBay integration. So you can update all your stuff over here in Joomla and automatically list it over there in eBay. It sells in eBay and take it off over here, and sells it here and take it off in eBay. Oh, that sounds great, but you got to you got to put the data together in a way that this little listing application thing that we've written that stays in the middle knows what to do with those products. So you have to understand, do they want to go beyond the website one day? They want to sell on Amazon or something like that. And then there's analytics and reporting. How do they want to be able to track things? Do they want geolocation? You know, there's a lot of sites now that are starting to get really large where they have products from a lot of different vendors, and then they want to be able to show you the ones that are in your location, within 50 miles of you, that sort of stuff. That comes up a lot. Those are features. All of these will cause you a tremendous amount of work. And you need to have the conversations early with the customer about what is it you want people to be able to do. To kind of echo my user stories this morning. As a shopper, I want to be able to whatever, right? Okay, then we have what I call Now Boulevard, which is all the marketing. Buy, sell, give me a coupon, give me a voucher. Coupons and gift certificates. Customers are particularly creative this way. So if someone says, I need coupons in my cart, and you look at the cart, and the cart has coupons, and you're like, okay, good, got it. Oh yeah, % off, dollar amount off, dates, I'm good. No, you're not, okay? Because people will do crazy stuff. Like, if you buy this foamy plane over here, and you buy this other, extra super duper rubber band thing that goes with it to soup it up, then you qualify for 50% off this other plane over here. That's the kind of stuff people ask for. Because people are always trying to be more creative in how they can do their sales and their promotions. So make sure you ask people, do you need stuff like that? You know, do you need something that if they buy 2 of these, then they're allowed to do 1 of these? Do you need something that keeps track of how much business they've done with you, and then they qualify for a coupon, and then sends them a coupon, all that sort of stuff. Fully describe this. This is one place where detail cannot hurt you because they will be very creative. You know, you get up to the end and you're getting ready to do the site launch, and they say, okay, well, we're ready. We're going to put our coupons in to announce our new site. I want you to set me up a coupon like this. And you look at that and you go, it doesn't do that. How can we make that happen? So you're finding yourself, and then you tell the customer, well, the site doesn't support that kind of coupon. Well, you told me I'd be able to do percent off. It's a percent off coupon. Yeah, it's a percent off coupon with 14 conditions that I can't track and then generate a coupon for. So make sure you talk about that. And then there's email marketing. People are more and more wanting the ability to send email messages to people who abandon their carts. They want to follow up after a sale. You bought this last week, you might be interested in that. So email marketing comes up a lot in e-commerce. If you're doing external, I say MailChimp. That's who I like to use. If you're doing internal, Joomla, you want the mail handling for the email marketing and everything inside Joomla, then I say go to Aximail. Those are my 2 favorites personally. And then there's reward systems. There's points, right? And whether or not what they get at the end is, do they earn enough points to get a free item? Do they earn enough points to get a free discount? Or can they use the rewards as currency? So we had one client who came to us who has, forget which airline it was, but it's overseas somewhere. They do reward sales, and they have some sort of agreement with the airline where they can sell things and use the frequent flyer points. And I guess they get reimbursed from the airline. So they wanted something where people could come in, it would use the API to go check the point balance, and it would come back, and then it would show them the what they were allowed to buy. Like, you have 40,000 points, so you can buy all of these with no additional money. But these are the things you can check out and just get right down. Or, oh, well, this item that I want is 45,000 points, and I only have 40,000 points. So I want to use 40,000 points, and I want to hit a difference. Fun. Okay. So reward systems are a problem as well, lots of times. Catchy little things. Find out what they want. How do they want the reward points to be earned? How do they want them to be able to be redeemed? And there are some good extensions to do some of this, but you got to ask. Taxes. None of us like this. We're coming up on the 15th of April. Taxes Tollroad. Now, this thing is still languishing. I don't think it's completely died. I don't know whether it's going to pass. But the Marketplace Fairness Act, does everybody know what that is? Has anybody heard of that? Some people are nodding. Some people are looking like, I don't pay any attention to any taxes because I don't want it. It basically is a law that is looming over all of us that says that if you're a vendor doing business in multiple states, and depending upon whether or not you meet certain criteria, you have to collect tax, sales tax, from people in other states, and then remit that tax. So like I might be in North Carolina, and maybe right now I don't have to deal with North Carolina tax. That's my only physical location, right? Even though I sell worldwide. If this thing passes, depending on what the final result is of the law, I may have to worry about, I do business with someone in Georgia, and I have to collect sales tax for Georgia and pay Georgia. I have to collect sales tax for Virginia. And guess what? It's not just 10% sales tax or whatever for a particular state. It's by the county. And some stuff is local. Very messy. And the taxes vary by the product. Wine is taxed differently than food. Is taxed differently than, clothes and all that kind of stuff. Very messy. So, the way our wonderful government is saying they're going to solve this problem is they're going to make part of the law that every state has to provide free tax software. I call that free kittens. You know why? Because someone can give me a kitten, but it's not free, right? I have to feed it, I have to take care of it, I have to play with it, I have to take it to the bed, blah, blah, blah. You give me free tax software for 46 states, I still have to worry about it, I still have to deal with it, it's still a lot of money. So what's your solution? There's stuff out. The marketplacefairness.org, I just thought this was hilarious personally. Today, keeping track of a few thousand local tax rates is no longer an insurmountable technical, administrative, or financial burden. Certainly no more difficult than calculated real-time shipping, which is flawless, and a common feature on most websites. So the people pruning this are like, that's no big deal, it's fine, we're going to give you free tax software. So how do you get through this if this comes up for you? First off, remember, I'm talking to you now with what's in it for you and what's important to you. You are not an accountant. Do not let the client turn you into one. It's not your job to figure out what the taxes are. It's not your job to research the taxes. It's not your job to certify that the tax rates are in there. Get the client to give them to you. Their job to give you the tax rates. Not your job to go get them. Okay? Now, got a better solution though, even than that. The better solution is use one of these two things. Both of these, AvaTax or TaxCloud, will do real-time tax calculation for anything in the U.S. down to the locale. Now, you still have to set it up. You still have to tell it, I'm selling wine, or I'm selling clothes, or I'm selling this, or I'm selling that, and I'm shipping from this location. You have to do configuration. But once you do, at the time of checkout, it uses an API to communicate to these services, and they come back and say you should collect $4.83 in tax. And then they keep the schedule. At the end of the year, the merchant can go in and can print out this big long thing that says, here's how much tax you owe all these different states. Now you're talking like prices right there, right? So in the olden days, just a year or two ago, it used to be, oh, no big deal, we'll just key in the tax rates. Well, who keeps up with those? You manually put them in. Nobody. These people do. That's their job. That's what they're selling. AvaTax charges, and they charge based on the taxable transactions that you do. Okay? TaxCloud is free. Lacks a lot of the features, but it is free. So Virtuemart has AvaTax integration. Hiccushop has TaxCloud. And also there is an OpenCart TaxCloud integration that I do not know of anyone yet that has adapted it for MeJoShop or A-Shop, but those are open cart-based carts. So feasibly, you should be able to at least make it work. Great. I have a few links in my actual slides. Well, the slides are online, I'll give you the link later. But there's links at the bottom you can click to go to those sites and learn more about them.
And AvaTax, they also have a service. You can just, they'll give you the listing of what all goes to the state. They'll send you the bill, and you can pay the service and just send them one check, and they'll take care of everything for you.
Oh, yeah, AvaTax will actually file for you if you buy that service and everything. It's very extensive what they offer. We've had a couple conversations with AvaTax. We actually signed a partner agreement with them at one point, and we were talking about building an AvaTax connector for some e-commerce carts. I think right now that's kind of on hold because the TaxCloud thing is free and a lot of people are heading for that. And so, until we see more interest from paying clients, frankly, right now we're waiting. But who knows? But both of these are worth looking into. Both of these are, if you're doing anything at all complicated, both of these are better solutions in handling the tax rate. Okay? Social media. Social media. So you're like, okay, somebody sends the requirements to you and they say, we're going to need social media integration. What does that mean? It could mean you don't see anything, right? It could mean they want social login at the beginning of the site, or to just get to the site, or they want social login during checkout, like you're leaving the checkout, and instead of having to register and all this stuff, and they want to be able to say, yeah, sign in with my Twitter or whatever. That might be what they mean. They also might mean, well, after someone buys my cool bikes, I want them to be able to tweet with a link back to the page where the bike is. That's the harder part, by the way. It's easy to do something that puts a little button at the bottom that says, tweet that you just bought XYZ, and it links just back to your homepage. That's not hard. The harder part is the specific link back to the product that they're talking about and having that pre-populate for them. So they want social network integration like Jam Social or now Easy Social. Where I bought this and it shows up in the activity stream. There's also a lot of stuff out there now about people being able to use the social aspect for targeted social ads. So maybe they have a really nice, robust Jam Social user community, and somebody is a vendor in a multi-vendor situation, and they want to be able to target advertising on a social level to people in young social who meet certain criteria, or women under 35 or something like that. So the minute someone says, I want social media integration, again, our conversation should ensue. What do they mean? What are they picturing? What's the point? What is it they want? And the whole point of this, if you've been following your little map, yes?
Just that the social media also
means or could mean for them to have the store on their Facebook page.
It could. This is great. Yeah, he said it could be that they actually mean they want the store on their Facebook page. Huh. It could very well be. So the whole point is you've been following along. So let's say you've gone past Payment P, you've gone past the shipping station, you've gone past Feature Festival, you got past Now Boulevard, and Texas Tollroad. You want to, in the social media soiree, you want to make sure that as you get really close now to launching the site and going live, you don't get stuck in what I call a By-the-Way Bog. Don't let that be you. That guy floating in there, okay? Because that's going to be you when the customer goes, by the way, I need coupons to behave this way. By the way, I need to only ship wine in cases of 12. By the way, etc., etc. So how do you get through that gate at the end? So Nirvana, the site's finally live, right? And that you haven't had that whole Alice in Wonderland experience of, well, eventually we'll get there. Don't get bogged down. Minimize surprises, document stuff. If the customer tells you how they want the coupons to behave, put it in writing. Don't trust your memory. Don't summarize. Put it in writing. And in some ways, I know I'm contradicting what I said earlier today, but we're talking about like you've got the deal. We're talking about after the proposal, and you've given this nice, high-level, hopefully well-estimated thing based on some assumptions. Then when the customer comes back and says, this is what I want, etc., etc., document what they said. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck in By-the-Way Bog. Phase the project. Try to get them to leave some of their crazy wish list, clever stuff they want for later. Still ask them about it. Make sure you have an idea of the long-term goal so you don't build something that has to be torn apart later to be able to accommodate it. But definitely see if you can get them to narrow down their vision. Let's do this in a piece at a time. Let's get this out, and then we can add these other features. Visuals are your friend. Everything. Visuals of exactly what that coupon's going to look like, what that filter's going to look like. Do a mock-up, draw it up, sketch it up, whatever. A visual is priceless. Even if what you're doing is not designing anything from scratch, and you're just assembling a site from Joomla extensions. And you could do it the quick and dirty way by taking screenshots of demos and stuff and then putting it together. But visuals are your friend to make sure you avoid this by-the-way bog that people get stuck in. Detail what the client is supposed to do. The client should provide you the tax rates. The client should provide you examples of all the coupons they intend to offer. Give me examples of all the use cases for your coupons. The client is going to provide XYZ. The client is going to give me the weights for all the products. I got one customer whose project has been on hold for literally 2 months. So we're waiting for weight on her products. So, can't go anywhere. Your statement of work should clearly describe when you're done. How many people have projects where you're done, but the project hasn't gone live because the customer isn't ready? Right? And then, can you collect your money? Maybe, if you wrote your statement of work right, you can. Sometimes you can't. So, depending upon what their comfort level is, some of them are like, well, but I don't want to pay you everything, and then if I don't go live for 2 months, then what if I find a problem? But still, there should be something in there that says, this is when I'm done. This is when I've met my commitment. And one of the things you can put in there is something like, let's say the balance owed at the end is $5,000. You can say, if the project stalls for more than 30 days at no fault, blah, 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 of my own, then client shall pay an extra, $3,500, with the remaining $1,500 due at actual go live. If they have to cough up more money, it puts a little more pressure on them, and also keeps you from going, we got $5,000 waiting for these people, and I can't get them to finish. So clearly describe when you're done, and if it's suitable and you can't collect the whole balance, put something in there that says if they drag it on, they owe you part of that money that's sitting out there. Basically, if you find yourself in the bog, because the customer goes, by the way, I need coupons, behave this way, do your best to find alternatives. And make sure you give them alternatives. Like, tell them, okay, I could do that, but it's going to delay the go live by 2 weeks, and it's going to cost an extra blank. Or we could do this, which is similar, or means a similar meaning. And again, that kind of is a good point about why you have those discussions like I promoted in my earlier talk today about the user stories and the why. Because if you can get to the why, they're a whole lot less hung up on the exact how. So if you can say, give it, the whole point of this was to do this for the customer, to allow the customer to do this need and satisfy it in this way, but it's not exact. So you have more negotiation room if you get to the end to be able to talk about alternatives and show that these all meet what we talked about when we set the full original requirements together. This meets the needs. And then, of course, when you get done, like success, I've met my goal and I am live with possibly a B2B, B2C, C2B, or C2C project. But again, they're all very different. They're different destinations, different features and everything. I did want to tell you that the slides for this are available online, and I've nicknamed this talk How Not to Be E-Commerce Roadkill. So it's at polished.com/roadkill. Okay. And then another thing you might be interested in is I have a white paper kind of write-up that I did, like 17 pages, that goes into a lot more detail of some of the stuff I talked about today, with links and examples and things like that. If you go to that address right there, you can sign up, you just give me your email address and such, and no, I won't give it to anybody, and no, I will not spam you. Then you can download that paper. And I have just a lot more information in it. Kind of goes into more depth, gives you some more to think about. And you're welcome to do that. So anybody have questions or comments? Oh, wow, great, awesome, yes.
I just want to add some more elements to this road, and their, integration with fulfillment companies.
Yes.
Inventory, and accounting software. So anyway, just to add a couple more elements.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's all. Like a lot of what you just said. I think you could kind of shipping station should get bigger. Has more to it. More tracks on the thing. There was a question up here.
I just want to ask you, can you give us an example of one of your more complicated, sophisticated sites you've developed?
Well, the thing with us is that we generally are the problem solvers who are brought in to do stuff for other web development companies a lot of times. And most of the time we're in an NDA, we can't even tell you that we worked on it. Like the clients often do not know we were involved. So some of our best stuff, I can't tell you.
The intermediate stuff.
Get together with me afterwards and we'll hook you up with something.
Yeah, with the builder, recently on the building site, and I started talking about pictures. That's confidential because that's in litigation. Well, we can't show that because lawyers won't allow us, and I can't build your website.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, it is. Yeah, we don't do websites from scratch. Like if someone comes to me and says I need an e-commerce store from scratch, we don't do that. Okay, so we're the people who come in who build the stuff or fix the stuff. Then the people who do, right? Or we add extensions or functionality or whatever, or we upgrade something somebody already has, convert it. Like, hey, they had this really neat custom thing for VirtueMart 1.1, and now we're moving to Hikashop and Joomla 3, and they need that same equivalent feature. Those are the kind of things we do. We just do the development part only.
I've got another question, but I'll let someone else.
Yeah, yeah.
One thing I can say from building enough e-commerce sites, I really force the client before I'll even give them a quote to answer like a whole worksheet of questions, because that stops many times when I say you want it this way, it's going to cost this much versus this way, this much. And if they're very price conscious, immediately gets them kind of focused.
Yeah.
If you start giving blanket prices, you're going to lock yourself down and hurt yourself.
Yeah.
The other thing is try to get them to give you as many of the options on each product, because they may have dependent options on a product. They may have all these strange caveats with their options in each individual product. And if they haven't thought that through, they think the shopping cart can do everything.
Yeah.
And that many times will bite and delay a project more than anything, because all of a sudden they've got their product list together. And oh, by the way, this product needs to do this, but not this unless this happens. And it can really eat time and budget. And the client has no clue.
No.
They shouldn't be required to. But if you can get sample projects and maybe you can walk them through examples, do you need it to be straightforward, or is it this way? It can really narrow down and cause a lot of avoid a lot of confusion later on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, we have people who ask us, how much will it cost for you to integrate our site with eBay? They're like, we need to see your products. It's a huge difference depending on what you want those products to do and how they're structured, or whether or not it's pretty easy of, oh, this is no big deal. We just
But
list
somebody else gave me a price. Well, maybe you're going to get slammed then when they come back and say they can't do 50% of what you want done or something.
Yeah, yeah. It's absolutely great point. Yes.
Do you see there's a difference between someone that's selling products on an e-commerce site or someone that's selling services? Like, I'm starting to get a lot of small businesses that are wanting to move their, they got a website and it just says, here's what I do. But now, like, I've got a tree person. He wants to actually have people like start working on the site and services.
Yep.
So and I've never done any e-commerce sites other than my personal one. So, but people are starting to ask they want that.
Yes.
So I'm wanting to say, well, should I treat that shopping cart as a cart? But cutting down trees and stuff there's a lot of variables out there. And it's like, how would you approach that?
That's a really nice example of the tree service, because you really have to get that customer to sit down and think about which things am I comfortable letting someone just answer some questions on a website and spit out a price,
Right.
and which things do I really need to see their yard. I really need to see this. I have a tree that needs to be cut down in my front yard. How big is it?
A little bit of experience with that.
But I also want him
Use tree service.
I want him to have a mobile app too. I want him to, like, once a customer says they want a quote, then he can go out there and fill in some stuff. And
I'm getting the notice that we are at time, because there's one more keynote I want to make sure everyone can get to. Definitely hit me up at the after party if you're interested in talking more about this stuff. Thank you very much.